Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, your daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center, Kaustubha. Welcome to the show. This is our Srimad Bhagavatam show. The Wisdom of the Sages is a daily study of yoga, wisdom, literature, focusing on the Srimad Bhagavatam. Fantastic for yoga teachers, fans of yoga culture who want to add spiritual direction to their life. You like that? I just wrote it.
That works for me. Fans of yoga culture.
Fans of yoga culture. You know, we like to scrape our tongue. Are you a tongue scraper on a regular basis, Kaustubha?
Of course.
Okay, see? You're a fan of yoga culture then.
All right.
So we are off to a...
what kind of question is that? What are you implying?
No, I'm implying that...
Something about my breath?
People who are new to this do not scrape their tongue.
Okay.
That's what I think. I think it's a unique thing for yogis who scrape their tongue in the morning. Right? You can.
No, I think all over India it's there. Maybe for Westerners, it's yogis that do, but all over India, everyone does it.
Well, all over India, I got news for you. There's things we do in America that I'm convinced in 10 years, it's going to be like, what were we thinking?
In only scraping our tongue.
I'm convinced that in 10 years, we are going to start to question the entire toothbrush.
And go to the twig?
Go to the twig. Go to
eucalyptus twig?
No, it's neem. Anything, any astringent. It could be. Like by my house, we have black birch. Black birch.
Yeah. When Prabhupada was in California, he used eucalyptus twigs.
Eucalyptus.
Yeah.
There's something incredibly disgusting about toothbrushes.
They sit there and collect mold or whatever. And like that.
It's like you can't keep those things clean.
Okay.
We're not talking about viruses and getting like all, washing your hands and antiseptic soap. Think about a toothbrush every day, just leaving it out, or at best you have one of those clips that clip onto it.
Prevents the air from getting to it and purifying it.
Also lotion that's not like cold pressed oils. Who wants that on your body? Any lotion. 10 years, mark my word, no one's going to be using lotions and no one's going to be using toothbrushes. And there, Ryan Gleason's there right now brushing his teeth. I caught him. I hope that better be a twig, Ryan. Go outside.
He's looking for one right now. But that twig, you chew it and you kind of flatten it out a little bit. And then you rub that on your teeth and it really, it scrubs them very well, but it also releases those antiseptic oils like the neem oil or the eucalyptus oil. And it gives you real strong, healthy teeth.
I think it's also like, it's not like Americans are known for great teeth. Are we?
I don't think so.
You go to South India, you see these people's teeth. They've never been to the dentist. Look at Janeshwar, my assistant in India. He's got the most beautiful, look at Mara. She's nodding. Oh, yeah.
Oh, great teeth.
He's got like the most beautiful teeth ever. He said he's never been to a dentist his entire life.
Well, I remember Prabhupada talking about that, and he was saying that he, because he had strong teeth, and they show him as an old man. He's like in his late 70s or 80s, and he had a big, hard, stalk of sugar cane, and he could just bite into that thing and rip it, with his teeth as an old man like that.
Yeah, strong teeth.
We're doing it all wrong.
We're doing it all wrong. Lotions, toothbrushes, chlorinated water. No one's going to be swimming in chlorinated water.
What about fluorinated water?
Forget it.
Is that a word? Fluorinated? Fluoridated.
Fluorinated.
Okay. Anyway, the little hygiene from Wisdom of the Sages today.
Yes, for your yoga culture. And scraping tongues, forget it. It's going to be off the charts. Everyone's going to be scraping if they're not. If you're new to the show, we talk about things like tongue scraping, etc. Now we read from this book, the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's one of the ancient books of literature in the Vedic canon that talk about understanding the self underneath the false self. False self is me. I'm Raghunath. I'm a father. I'm a son. I'm a husband. I'm a yoga teacher. I'm an Italian-American New Yorker. That's called my external self. And the yogis of ancient India say, it's a partial truth. It's not the whole truth. It's a partial truth. Why is it partial truth? Because it's not really true in all three phases of time. It's true now. It wasn't true, like I'm 54. It wasn't true, right? 56 years ago. It won't be true in 56 years from now. It's only true for a few years. So the Bhagavatam deals with things that are of eternal truth, which is I'm a spiritual being. I'm eternal, I'm blissful, I have deep inherent wisdom, I'm born to serve, to give love. These are the things the Bhagavatam deals with on a regular basis. Every now and then, we have to dip into what am I doing here in this world? And that has something to do with this karma of this thing I'm driving around in. But for the most part, the Bhagavatam keeps it sort of high into this, what is your real position eternally? And that's something that ties us all together because we're different in the material world. We can't help that. We're different. Some people are just super sharp. Some people are super dull. I'm in that category. I'm in the super dull room. Kaustubha, Mara, they're in the super sharp private school room. But we're different.
And on the private school, don't lump me in.
You would have been in private school, Kaustubha.
If my karma wasn't so bad?
If you went to school.
Okay.
If you weren't a punk rock dropout like me. But anyway, the idea is that the thing that really ties us all together, and I find it's true like this even today. Sometimes, when we're in Bombay for festivals and stuff like that, you see so many different people. You see the poorest of the poor and the richest of the rich, and we're coming together sort of in a kirtan, and we're all sort of, you can go very deep with a person, no matter where they're at. I find myself like I can connect with people and go deep with people wherever they are externally on these simple spiritual truths. And you can have very deep conversations. You can have deep friendships. And it's got really nothing to do with who they are, what they have or don't have. And
on a spiritual level.
It's on a spiritual level. It's on a spiritual level.
So what you're saying, if I understand correctly, is that for something to be truly true.
Truly true.
Right? Like something could be relatively true.
There's relative truths, right?
Yeah. But relative to time, to place, to circumstance.
Sure.
So like you could say like, I'm Raghunath, I'm an Italian New Yorker. That's true, but it's not truly true because it's relatively true. It's true right now, but it wasn't true 100 years ago. It won't be true 100 years from now.
Even in a shorter term, I'm a dad. I wasn't a dad, 20 years ago.
Right. So then for something to be truly true, it's something that is, you mentioned it's true in all three phases of time, past, present, future.
It's nice to think of it like that.
Well, that helps explain a lot about what, when Eastern philosophies get into talking about illusion, what is truth and what is illusion. And when they say like that, for instance, like this world is illusion, it's illusion in the sense that it's not true in all three phases of time. It's a higher standard of truth. And when you start to operate and think on that level, then you look at things that don't meet that criteria as you view them in another way, right? In a relative way. So like the Gita says, those who are seers of the truth have concluded. Of the non-existent, there is no endurance, right? It doesn't last. It comes to an end. At a certain phase of time, it stops. So in a sense, it's untrue. And of the eternal, there is no change. And this they've concluded by studying the nature of both. Right? It's such an important point, I think.
I think it's important too because the whole world is trying to pound out and get to the bottom of how can we come together? What is right? What is equal? What is just? But they're going about on a bodily platform, and then they'll never get to the bottom of it.
Everyone fights on the surface level of the relative truths.
Because everybody in the whole political spectrum wants to, for the most part, I feel people have good hearts, no matter where they're leaning, but it's just sort of misdirected and misconstrued when we're seeing through the lens of we're humans. Just like even if you get through all the equality of humans and what we have right and what's just for all people, then it still puts up a wall between, well, what about animals? Don't they get rights? You know, we break it down. Okay, women get rights. Okay, blacks can vote. Oh, okay. And we're trying to extend that circle bigger. And what about animals? What about forests? Right? What about the planet? And so all of a sudden, you have to make that circle very big. And eventually, if you get the circle big enough, you'll see the common thread that keeps us connected, where we have to really extend our dignity and our love is actually, it's a spirit soul.
Wherever there's real life, it's seen as sacred, right?
Life has to be sacred.
Yeah.
And the temporary stuff, truthfully, I am an Italian-American New Yorker as much as Mara is. No, that's a bad analogy. I'm an Italian-American New Yorker male Italian, as much as Mara is. And
she may have been one longer than you. You don't know that, right?
Well, she could have been an Italian-American New Yorker male in her last life. Because my existence as Raghunath is one thin page of an encyclopedia of existence. And now I think this is all me. This is me. It's not me. It's a page in eternality. And in this page, I'm a have. The next page, I'm a have not. The next page, I'm a sort of have. The next page, I'm a goat. The next page, I'm a banyan tree. It's just like, we don't know. It's just we're wearing different costumes, different outfits, different personas from one life to another. And each life, Maya or illusion, has me convinced, this is you, this life. This is you. This is your real identity. Oh, okay. How can you find freedom, joy, and happiness in this identity? And then we go around bouncing into walls, right? Like hitting our head against a house of mirrors, trying to find our way out, trying to have fun. And we get to this point, an access point into a spiritual world where we can get out of that illusion. The Srimad Bhagavatam is that access point where we start to get a glimpse into something besides what I've always called myself.
In the commentary on one of the verses we're going to read today, Srila Prabhupada uses this term Svarupa. Right? Svarupa, which Sva means like one's own, and Rupa means form. And Srila Prabhupada speaks this term meaning one's original form, right? That there is a form or a personality or an identity that we have that does exist in all three phases of time.
Right.
And right now it's almost like sleeping. It's like we're out of touch with it. It's almost like we're living in the dream where everything is relative. We're meant to wake up that Svarupa and exist in it again.
It's a dream. It's such a dream. The analogy is so good. Yeah. I ever have this one where you're, sometimes when my wife will wake up, I'm so pissed off at you. I was like, what? Oh, in the dream you did this. I was like, I didn't do anything. I was like, listen, you're awake now. I didn't do that. That was a dream. You can't be mad at me for what I did in a dream. So sometimes dreams are so real that you can wake up angry at the person that they've done nothing, Or I could say something like, I'm bald. Like my identity is in my baldness or lack of hair, right? Everything in the material world has some identity with something that's temporary. We give ourselves an idea of our job, right? Or and then we lose our job, and then it really throws us for a loop. Or even that this is reality, and then someone we know dear to us dies, and that blows our mind, right? So because we're looking at everything with this temporary lens, the temporary eye, then what happens is when the material world starts to break apart, which it does, that's part of the material world, our whole boat starts to rock.
Shakes us up.
And what Kaustubha is trying to teach us here.
You were teaching most of the talking about
the wisdom. By the way, the name Wisdom of the Sages is Kaustubha is the sage, and I'm the inquisitive child.
The sages are in the pages. That's
our hashtag. The sages are in the pages. And so anyway, yeah, we're trying to get to that place of renaming ourselves. I'm not the machine made up of material energy. I'm a pure spiritual person. There is a Svarupa, a real form underneath this machine, right? Look, yeah. I'm making, if you can't see me what I'm doing, I'm doing the robot. That's my robot dance. It's the robot. We're just like robots. And you take off, or like Mickey Mouse, right? In the Disneyland, there's a giant mouse walking around. There's a person. It's not a real mouse. There's a person under there with a life and a family, right? He has to go home at night. He takes the giant head off and he goes out with his friends. If he went out with his friends in the mouse outfit, it'd be like, what are you, nuts? So if I'm walking around convinced that I am this guy my whole life, that's the type of insanity. The Bhagavatam gives you a glimpse into sanity again. It makes so much sense. It's all real.
I like the Mickey Mouse one.
You like that? Write that down.
I'm gonna steal that one.
Keep that.
If he walks around thinking that he's Mickey Mouse all the time, then he's mad.
Right? Todd Deckard likes that one. I can see he's joyous. Joyous from that analogy. He probably just got back from Disneyland. You mean he's not real? Mickey wasn't real.
Inside Mickey, there's a real person.
All right. So
Ready?
yeah. Well, you know what? You say we say ready.
No, but we got to get to that too, Raghu. We got to get to that too.
Get to what?
And you're about to say that it's all the Bhagavatam. Fair enough.
It is. It is all the Bhagavatam.
But it's good to read from the actual book.
Oh, it's good to read from the Bhagavatam. Yeah. Sorry, dropped my thing. But yes, we're going to read from the actual Bhagavatam itself here. So we start off with this lovely mantra. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narotamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudiraye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta Prayeshva Badreshu Nityam Bhagavat Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes in the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. And loving service to the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Agyana Tamarandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Midatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So we are reading from Canto 1. Chapter 10, text 27. Undoubtedly, it is wonderful that Dwarka has defeated the glories of the heavenly planets and has enhanced the celebrity of the earth. The inhabitants of Dwarka, always seeing the soul of the living beings, Krishna, in loving feature, he glances at them and favors them with sweet smiles. All right. You want to read that one? That's a nice purport. Kaustubha, are you there?
Oh, I was muted. I was speaking away. I was talking
for hours, rambling.
But I was saying that the ladies who are the residents of Hastinapur and who have been relishing the vision of Krishna for some time had that opportunity. Now they're saying now Krishna's going to Dwarka. That's where he lives all the time. And how fortunate are the people there that they're always seeing him in all his loving features. I think the word here is anugraha. Yeah, anugraha ishitam. It's this, they're seeing him in this mood that's full of anugraha, that's full of like kindness and benediction. They get to relish it, to live in that, and to always be experiencing, seeing him walk around with this smile on his face, glancing at them with sweet smiles. How fortunate they are,
Special birth, huh? To be taken birth in Dwarka at that time.
Yeah, and so they're saying that place, Dwarka, therefore is a very special place. It's that place where that opportunity to connect is always there. How fortunate are the people in that place? And so Prabhupada's going to speak in the commentary about these special places.
It's so interesting about the specialty of a particular place or family you were born in. Like we go to India sometimes, we see these kids from childhood just worshiping Krishna from childhood. It's like their whole life. It just is in their mind.
What place were you born, Raghu?
Where was I born?
Yeah.
Carmel, New York.
Carmel, okay.
Carmel.
Not quite the same as Vrindavan.
Not quite the same.
Okay.
You know, but our families have something to do with us for sure, you know, and our influence. I'm even convinced to say that my Catholic mother probably prayed a lot for me. And if I'm connected to Krishna, it could be we could be existing, and hear me out on this one, because I think it's an important one. Any advancement I make in my spiritual life, I tend to think, well, I'm like really serious about my spiritual life now. I'm really focused. You know, I've been chanting a lot of japa and reading a lot. How do I know that it's not from very spiritually sincere, connected ancestor, a parent, a relative, an uncle, a grandmother that just prayed for me like crazy? And in their prayers, I end up as a Krishna Bhakta. Even in how arrogant is it that even in my own, you know, diving into spiritual life, I want to take full credit for it. I want to take full credit for everything. That's my materialistic consciousness. What do you think? Does that have some weight to it?
It sure does. You know, I think it probably was your mother's prayers that helped you along in your spiritual life.
I mean, I pray for my kids. I'm sure I'm going to pray for my grandkids, you know.
You're living on a prayer.
Oh, that's good.
I thought you were going to sing it. It was a cue.
That was okay. I'm saving you guys. All right.
Want to read the commentary?
What's that? Yeah. Sorry. The heavenly planets are inhabited by demigods like Indra, Chandra, Varuna, Vayu, and the pious souls reach there after performance of many virtuous acts on earth.
Okay.
Interesting, isn't it?
Now he's establishing one layer of, hey, if you're very virtuous, you might achieve these higher planets. Okay. Next point.
Modern scientists agree that the timing arrangement in higher planetary systems is different from that of Earth.
Okay. So there's something special about that realm that's different than where we're existing.
Modern timing? What does that mean?
In other words, like a minute here is in a minute there are two different lengths of time.
Oh,
relative time.
Yeah, I guess it is. Thus, it is understood from the revealed scriptures that the duration of life there is 10,000 years by our calculation.
Okay. There's an example.
6 months on Earth is equal to 1 day on the heavenly planets.
Mm-hmm.
Facilities of enjoyment are also similarly enhanced, and the beauty of the inhabitants is legendary.
They're beautiful people there.
They're beautiful people. They wouldn't let me in this form. I'd need a makeover. I'm sorry, sir.
You're going to have to take on a new form before you come here.
Yeah.
And you don't have the piety right yet. Go back and work on it.
Or even you don't have the hair on your head anymore. You're not coming in here bald.
Well, if you got the piety, that can take care of that.
They are now trying to reach the moon by spacecraft. So this is written in 1966.
Mm-hmm. No, before that, Robo. I keep.
Oh yeah. This is written before Prabhupada came to India, America. They are now trying to reach the moon by spacecraft. Considering all this, the heavenly planets are more celebrated than the Earth, but the celebrity of the Earth has defeated that of the heavenly planets because of Dwarka, where Lord Sri Krishna reigned as king.
Okay.
It's almost
like
what
Prabhupada did there.
Yeah.
See what he did?
Around.
In the verse, it was talking about how, was it in the verse? Undoubtedly, it is wonderful that Dwarka has defeated the glories of the heavenly planets. So Dwarka is the place on earth. It's considered to be much lower than the heavenly planets. But because it's Krishna's place, therefore it's greater than the heavenly planets.
That was sweet.
Yeah.
3 places, namely Vrindavan, Mathura, and Dwarka, are important than the famous planets within the universe.
More important.
These places are perpetually sanctified because whenever the Lord descends to the earth, he displays his transcendental activities, particularly in these 3 places. They are perpetually the holy lands of the Lord, and the inhabitants still take advantage of the holy places. even though the Lord is now out of their sight. The Lord is the soul of all living beings. You know, I would love to take this purport apart sentence by sentence.
We could. I mean, just all that stuff you said there was so important, right?
3 places, namely Vrindavan, Mathura, and Dwarka. So these are the places we hear about Krishna's pastimes or Krishna's Leela. Krishna was born in Mathura, but very quickly went to Vrindavan. And then he left Vrindavan. He was taken away from Vrindavan by Akrura and brought to Mathura, where the evil king was, and his grandfather was imprisoned. His parents were imprisoned. And then he left and became a prince. That sort of like little chapter is missed out. He went.
No, that's not. What are you talking about?
How did he become a prince? How did he establish his?
He was born a prince, right? His family's royalty. His mother is the sister of the king.
His mother is the sister of the king. Oh,
his whole family's royalty. All going
it's sort
way,
of a
way
mixed
back.
thing because he's a cowherd. He's like a Vaishya.
No. Well, there's 2 ways to look at it. On the deeper esoteric level, he's the son of Yashoda and Nanda. But on the very practical level, he appears to be born of Devaki.
Acha. You know,
So
I
he-
never put this together.
Oh, come on.
It's been like 30 plus years. I still haven't like cracked that nut. This is like a whole one of those. Ever see the movie The Sixth Sense, where it's sort of like, you've been dead the whole time? I'm having one of those moments right now. Wait, Krishna is a prince. He was a prince. He always was a prince. I thought he was a coward boy.
There you go. So now he comes back. His parents, I mean, I don't know if we should tell the whole story, but you know, his parents were royalty, but they were imprisoned by the evil Kamsa, who's his uncle, Krishna's uncle. And so he's born in that prison, but transferred, you know, at the moment of birth for his own protection out of their particular rasa that they have. We need to protect Krishna. He's going to be killed by Kamsa. They ship him off across the river to Vrindavan, where he's raised as if he's the son of Yashoda and Nanda. And he lives his pastimes there, his sweet, intimate pastimes.
In a
as
little
cowherd
farming
boy.
village. A little farming village.
Beautiful farming village. Where he has deep, intimate, loving relationship. Now, then he comes, when he's a teenager, he comes to free his parents up from the rule of Kamsa. And then he starts to live as a prince, and he goes to Dwarka, where he's living like a prince or a king, like that. So those are the 3 dhams that Krishna is operating in. Mathura, where he's born, and has some pastimes. They call that the Janmastan, the place of birth. And then the Karmastan, the place of his activities, is Vrindavan especially. And then later, Dwarka.
You know, one of my favorite parts of Raghunath Swami's book is when he's on that 3rd class train and could not, you know, you're packed in these trains. You see pictures if you Google search this.
Mm-hmm.
Packed in this train. He was traveling around as a sadhu, and then he had to go to the bathroom. So when the train station stopped, he had to jump off the train. And then when the train started taking off, he tried to get back in the train. He kept on running into the train. He could not get back in the train. The train just left. And he's sitting there on this train station platform, and everybody's already in a festive mood. And he was on his way somewhere. I can't remember the whole story, but he said,
He's going up to Rishikesh, I believe.
Yeah. And he says, where am I? He says, this is Mathura. And he goes, and today is Krishna's appearance day, Krishna Janma. And so he was in Mathura on Krishna's appearance day. And it was like perfect timing.
Yeah.
This is, and you know, every year when we go on pilgrimage, we take groups to, I always put Vrindavan in there because it's such a special place and you want to leave on a big high. So we sort of, my brain is build the students up till we get to this peak of the mountain and then shoot them back to America or Europe or wherever they're from, just to like, what just happened to me? But, and then we've been to Mathura, and Mara, you went to Mathura with us that time, right? That was fun, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was great.
It was great. Mathura is great.
Yeah.
But I've never been to Dwarka. Have you been to Dwarka?
I've never been to Dwarka. I've never been to Gujarat.
Let's go to Dwarka.
We got to do it. Okay, that's it.
I've heard, no, I'm serious. I've heard Dwarka was incredible. I heard it's like what Vrindavan was like many, many years ago.
Why don't you and I do this? Why don't you and I, before we go to the Eco Village this year, why don't we go to Dwarka, check it out, scope it out for future, do a little reconnaissance for future trips.
I would love to go to Dwarka.
All right. We got to do that. It's crazy that we've never
I can't believe I'm 54 years old. I've never been to Dwarka.
It's crazy.
I'm wasting my life.
Until a few minutes ago, you didn't know why Krishna was a prince.
Oh yeah, it's important. These are the questions we should be asking every day. How was Krishna a prince? Okay. Vasudeva was a prince. He was married to the king. Ugrasen was a grand. That was a sixth sense moment. Okay.
Now it says here in the commentary that these places are perpetually sanctified because whenever the Lord descends to earth, he displays his transcendental activities, particularly in these three places. They are perpetually the holy lands of the Lord, and the inhabitants still take advantage of these holy places. What does that mean? They take it, even though the Lord is now out of their sight. So it's described that the Lord, when Krishna descends, first the Dham descends. First, his place descends, and then he enters that place.
We've been reading about this in Sweet Baby Krishna, actually.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. And so, these places, they're called yoga-pithas, right? The yoga-pitha, the place where the yoga happens, and yoga here meaning where two things meet, where there's a union. So the yoga
Virabhadrasana 3, is that?
It's not talking about that.
Warrior 3.
No.
That meets with.
And so the yoga-pithas mean it's that place where two things are meeting. What's meeting? The material realm wherein we live and the spiritual realm. They connect. So like you were using the term access point. I think you picked that up from Bridge the other day, right?
Good. It's a good one, an access point.
Yeah. So these spiritual, they're access points. You can enter to, now you may walk into, now you go to Vrindavan, right? Now you may see it with materialistic eyes and say, okay, this is like a town, like
it's a village.
Like there's so many in India. And it's said that like there's a thin layer of material energy that we may just like walk on that thin layer and not really penetrate. But if you go in there, and particularly like what Raghunath and I always try to do when we go there, we try to bring and connect people with people that really understand that place. And if you're there with someone that really understands the spiritual nature of the place, then they can start to reveal it to you, and everything just starts to take off. Isn't it true?
Everything changes.
Yeah.
It's almost like, it's not like another place you visit, even cool places. I've been to Ubud, I've been to Vietnam. I've been to, Koh Phi Phi in Thailand. It's not, it's not like a cool adventure spot, but it is the coolest adventure spot.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you're in a spiritual world. But that's only if you go with people who can give you those spiritual goggles to see it, or else you could just miss it. You could just like sort of walk right through and drive. It's just another dusty town in India, but it's not. And I feel like we were like blessed when we were younger to be like literally handheld and taken to holy places and shown how to behave, how to think in these places, how to like worship these places, what to see, what not to see, how to be, what to eat, what not to eat, what should be the mood, because you can't see it otherwise. It's like trying to get into the jar of honey by like banging on the glass. You got to open that honey. There's a way to open the honey jar before you can dip your little paw in there. You can't just lick the jar. You're not going to get the taste.
Yeah, and it's really the right people that have the right understanding that can reveal it. And if you go there without that guidance, you may or may not have a uplifting experience. But if you go there with someone that really you can definitely have a much, much deeper experience. And our spiritual lives are largely built on this, right, Raghu? It's like we used to every year, go to Vrindavan, go to Mayapur, and our gurus would, take us by the hand and show us these places, and through their words and through their examples, they would open it up for us. And something happens in the mind and something happens in the heart. And you start to carry that with you, even when you come back to the West, right?
Yeah, it's the perspective and the focus,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. You
Our
can always
perspective.
remember that place. And it changes the nature of your existence even when you're not in that place. Because it's really all about the mind. You know, this yoga is really all about the mind. So we can be sitting in New York, but our mind can be in Vrindavan. That's how Prabhupada spoke. He even gave one class. Have you ever heard that class?
Mm-mm. Well,
He's at 26 Avenue. So it's 1966. And he's sitting there in this small little storefront on 2nd Avenue on the Lower East Side. And, you know, there's a few beatnik hippie types sitting there in the audience. And you can hear the traffic going by, you know. And Prabhupada saying, you know, you think that I'm sitting here in New York, but actually I'm in Vrindavan. And there's so much for us to learn from that, you know, to understand from that. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada, he went back to Vrindavan, and he, with the help of his disciples, he established the most beautiful temple there, isn't it?
it's a great temple. There's a
The
great, I should write it on the message board.
Krishna Balaram Mandir. And I mean, when you go in that temple, the tangible, very, what do you call it when you can taste something? The palpable, the palpable energy of bhakti within the walls and the courtyard of that temple. There's nothing like it, you know. There's really nothing like it.
I just posted on the chat board the name of that book,
Vrindavan
Vrindavan Days by Hari Agriva.
Yeah.
Great book.
Great book.
Great book. And you can find it on a PDF online. I don't even know if it's in print anymore.
Okay.
But it was such a good intro to going there because it gives you sort of a glimpse of this one person, one of the early Prabhupada followers, when Prabhupada brought back all the students in 1972 and what it was like. And they didn't even have a temple there. They're just a bunch of, you know, white American boys and girls, teenagers, ex-hippies, just sort of flopping around India trying to figure out their life. And to hear it in that context is such a... I know for myself, I take things for granted when I'm in India. I take things like, I want some hot water. You know, I want to make a phone call. I want this, I want that. And, you know, when we first went to India, it was like...
It's hard to make a phone call.
It was hard. You couldn't make a phone call. You know, you had to send air mail. You had to, you know, I'm looking at Henry right now. And Henry, I met Henry in 1988 in India. Right, Henry? Remember we met there? India was another world back then. And a lot of these people, especially these devotees that first went over there, imagine like you guys. Imagine if your teacher, Kaustubha's my teacher, Kaustubha says, okay, Liam, I want you to go to India and start a temple in Calcutta. And Liam would be like, okay, all right. And Scott Mueller, I want you to go to Bombay, open up a temple there. You got to figure it all out. You got to deal with Indian, you know, legal system and
bureaucracy.
Unbelievable stuff. What to speak of like Mayapur, which was like jungle and fields and, you know, locals and villages and and it's not, everyone thinks it's all peaceful. It's India. Wrong. You're dealing with just a crazy village life, and they had to establish these temples. Now we can go to Mayapur and it's like pleasant and, you know, wonderful. These guys were like camping out basically for years, building tiny little structures, trying to raise money, dealing with all this, and all
dealing
for
with gangsters, dealing with all kind of stuff.
Dealing with all crazy, like local dacoits. Love that word, dacoits.
But all for the purpose that we in the future could visit those places.
Yeah.
And benefit from them.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I believe like yourself, myself, I know Johnny Ty's here and Henry's here and so many others, you know, we come from a certain generation, you know, of Bhakti yogis who would, you know, like in the late 80s and 90s. I mean, we still go every year, but, you know, we were being trained and taught and very mercifully guided by going to these places every year, right? We go to Vrindavan every year, and we hear the classes and the teachings, and then we'll be brought to these very special places. And the nature of what the holy dham, and when I say that word dham, that means that holy place, that spiritual place that is connected to the pastimes of Krishna. So it's hard to explain in words, but it's like, I think our spiritual lives are based on that foundation of those experiences. Don't you feel that way? Not only in like what was taught to us, certainly in what was taught to us, but just that there was a benediction from being able to kind of bathe our souls, bathe our minds and our souls in those waters and in the dust of those places and in the association of the people in those places, that it's given us a spiritual foundation that we carry with us wherever we go.
Yeah, it's built these like impressions in the consciousness, just by meeting people, going to various holy spots. And I can say when times are tough in my life, those are like my anchors that I look back to, that I hold on to.
So you mentioned yesterday Rupa Goswami, and maybe we can just mention a bit about this, that Sri Chaitanya, in the lineage that Raghunath are in, and Raghunath is like saying, therefore you're all in it now in one sense, but it's the followers of Sri Chaitanya who's in that lineage is accepted as he was Krishna himself coming in the mood of a Bhakti-yogi, because he wanted to taste the practice of Bhakti-yoga himself. He wanted the experience of Bhakti-yoga himself. What is it like to love Krishna? I have to come as a devotee of Krishna to understand it. Sri Chaitanya comes 500 years ago. He teaches Bhakti, and he experiences it himself. And he especially establishes kirtan as like the primary spiritual practice for this age. And rather than write books himself, he speaks this message to very important disciples. And among them are the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, that there's 6 incredibly deep yogis.
And by material standards, brilliant
leaders of governments, incredibly wealthy in some cases, or coming from like incredibly rich spiritual traditions. They all left it all behind, and he instructed them, please go to Vrindavan, write books on bhakti yoga that will be handed down for future generations, really clarifying it all, and uncover the holy places there so that people in the future can go and visit them. And so that's what they did. And so Rupa Goswami wrote a really important book called Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which Srila Prabhupada kind of translated in kind of like in a summary way in a book called The Nectar of Devotion. And there it's listed that there are many practices of bhakti that one can do. They're all very valuable. But there are 5 of them, 5 limbs of bhakti, panchanga bhakti.
Five potent, right? Practices.
5 super potent practices. And so they are, Raghu Hatsi.
Reading the Srimad Bhagavatam, number 1.
Yes.
So I just want to also preface this by saying, it's said that if you do even one of these, you will get a glimpse, or you can get a glimpse to what it's like to be a liberated soul. Just doing one of these, and there's examples of people who have done just one of these things. Another one is listening to kirtan, just hearing kirtan. And some of you guys have gone to a kirtan and been like, you don't even know why you start crying, but you just start crying, or you have some high experience. Another one is standing right in front of the altar and seeing the deity. Very powerful. Another one is residing in the holy place, and just, go in there, stand there. And another one is chanting the holy name.
No, you did that one already.
Read the Srimad Bhagavatam, chanting the holy name. Who is Lord Chaitanya? No. I just dropped the Jeopardy ball. I'll take Rupa Goswami for 400.
Take Bhakti Rasamrita.
All right, what I missed?
Associated with the devotees.
Associated with devotees. Yeah. It's sort of, we're doing it here. We're doing it here. We're doing the five potent items of bhakti right here.
Yeah. So among them is living in the holy dham, right? Living in the holy place, residing in the holy place, going on pilgrimage to that holy place. And really it says living in the holy place. And what our acharyas, what our teachers have handed down is you can also live there in your mind, right? Even if you can't live there physically. But it's such a valuable thing to go there and spend some time there and be guided by the right people there. And then when you're not there, you can also be living there in your mind. And, we had so many, and we continue to have so many wonderful pastimes, so many wonderful times there, so many life-changing times there. Somehow I can never forget this one time with you, Raghu. You want me to share a story? You're muted. Unmute, Raghu. Speak to me.
Mara muted me again.
Mara, what?
She's muted herself too.
It's just a matter of time before she completely takes over. So it was the day that you got your first initiation and I got my second, right? Mm-hmm. And it was all part of the same ceremony. Yeah. And so then...
All right, we got to post that picture of you and me getting initiated.
Okay, we can post that picture. And it was a beautiful ceremony, right? It was the appearance day of Nityananda. Yeah. It's a whole nother thing. I won't bother to explain all that now. But a very holy day. And we were sitting in that beautiful courtyard of the Krishna Balaram Mandir.
Gorgeous.
This is nothing like it. And then after that ceremony, we all went to the Yamuna River, which is so horribly polluted now that it's getting
probably good now because of the. It's amazing.
There's still the sewage and everything from Delhi.
Yeah,
but if you get, they say if you get before Delhi, it's been largely restored because of the whole lockdown. Yeah,
amazing, huh?
Yeah, someday
we're doing it right now. All you got to do is do what you're doing now, which is nothing.
Yeah, we all have to dedicate ourselves to someday making sure that these rivers become clean again. And so then we went and we bathed in the river together, and had the feast afterward for the holy day. Yeah, beautiful, and that's just a beautiful experience itself. Each one I'm not going into the details, but each one of these experiences was just filled with beautiful sights and beautiful exchanges and beautiful teachings. So it's so true, right? Yeah. And then we had that feast where, hundreds of Bhakti-yogis line up in lines and they're sitting down and incredibly delicious foods are being served out. Guava chutney, you have that with your
guava chutney.
Puri. It's like, what can compete with that,
Mara, can you make guava chutney?
Guava chutney.
Put that one on your list, guava chutney.
It's in Yamuna's cookbook. It's so good. And then in the evening, there's the arti and the kirtan. And because it was that holy day, all the most beautiful altars, right? Sri Chaitanya and Nityananda, Krishna and Balaram, and Radha and Krishna, Radha Shyam-Sundar, they're decorated like very opulently with beautiful flowers and lots of fruits. They decorate also with all these beautiful fruits.
And they do this like every day, but this is especially special.
But this was extra. Yeah, this was extra. And so then it was because that was the last, arti of the day. And this kirtan was going on. People were dancing the kirtan and they were taking those fruits and they're throwing them from the altar, right? And people were catching them and taking them home. And I remember I was standing in that temple about, 30 feet from you. And I'm standing with my guru, right, Tamal Krishna Goswami, and with Giriraj Swami. Everybody is just kind of like floating and like, just like happiness, it's just like, you know what I'm saying? It's just like the whole day was just, and
what was I doing?
And the kirtan was going on. You were dancing in the kirtan.
Okay.
And we were all watching you. And then they threw out some piece of fruit. I don't know what it was, a banana or something like that. And you caught it.
This is, by the way, if you've never been to a temple, this is sometimes they'll do some work. The priest will be on this altar, which is almost like a stage, and they'll throw a garland out or a piece of fruit out, like sort of like a rock star would throw out, like, here's my hat, and throw it out.
Here's my guitar pick. Right?
Yeah, guitar pick.
But this is what you just said shows how perfectly Vrindavan works, right? Like in the material world, it's like, take my thing, and you're the Benedict. And Vrindavan's like, here, take Krishna's fruit. Yeah, everything's revolving around God, so everything's perfectly harmonious and beautiful and satisfying. So they threw out this piece of fruit. You caught it, and then when you caught it, you started jumping in the air like you just received Krishna Prema or something, just like the very goal of your life had just been achieved. You started dancing, and I caught it, and you're dancing around like a madman. And myself, I was just watching Tamal Krishna Goswami, Giriraj Swami. They were just looking at you and just smiling and laughing, But we have these beautiful memories.
These anchors.
They're anchors in our life, and to this day, especially you, and I'm just tagging along really, but what you and I are doing, we're trying to take people now and give them that same experience. Come to the Govardhan Eco Village for a month. And the Govardhan Eco Village is just Vrindavan recreated the most beautiful way there. And study and learn and associate and immerse yourself in the culture, immerse yourself in the philosophy, immerse yourself in the practices. And then we go and we visit Vrindavan as well.
By the way, we do study Nectar Devotion as well.
Study Nectar Devotion.
There's going to be a guest speaker on the show soon.
Yeah.
And Nectar Devotion teacher.
And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to make it affordable and easy and that you can come back and do it year after year. Because that's really what we built our spiritual lives on, is the year after year, coming back. And like having these experiences.
Saying the other day, Kaustubha, taking that time where, you know what? I'm just going to go. And this time of the year, this is for my spiritual life.
That's right.
It's like we said, this time of the day is.
Hours of the day, days of the month, and then months of the year. At least a few weeks, a couple weeks.
A few weeks. And you know what's great about it? It's like that affects me for the rest of the year. It affects me deeply, that it helps me deal with the world for the rest of the year. It's like you got to put the fuel in before you drive the car. And sort of like that's where we're at. So
it's some beautiful time to dedicate your a good chunk of your time exclusively to your spiritual life, to your connection. And if you do it in that holy place, in that holy dham, it has tremendous, powerful benefit. They say 1,000 times more, right?
1,000. It's true. Right, Mara? What do you think?
Yeah, it's incredible.
There you go. Confirmed.
Confirmed by Mara. Guess what?
We're out of time.
We're out of time. Thanks, everybody. What a great way to start your morning, thinking about Vrindavan and our good fortune to have spiritual life in our life. I've done nothing to deserve it. By the mercy of others, I have something valuable in my life. I'm grateful. Wisdom of the Sages is a listener-supported podcast. If you'd like to support in any way, join our Patreon community. We appreciate all of you. It's patreon.com/wisdom of the sages. Thanks for all the community who supports us to do that and makes it possible. Thanks to everybody who's joined us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, etc. Go there, give us a 5-star review. Keep us in the conversation of people looking around their iPhones. What should I listen to today? What should I put in my ears today? Put the Bhagavatam in your ears. We have some great guests coming up for guest day. If you have questions, you can email Mara at wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com for question day this Saturday. We sleep in on Saturday. You get to sleep into 8 o'clock. And on Sunday, a special guest we're going to announce tomorrow. Join me tonight for Sweet Baby Krishna, Patreon members, where we read Krishna stories, we chant mantras. It's all around sweet way to wind down. Everybody on Zoom, thanks for joining us. You can also email Mara if you'd like to join our Zoom class today. How many people do we have, Kaustubha?
I didn't see, but it was well over 100.
It was over 100, man. This is great. Listening to the Bhagavatam, 100 of us strong. Listening to the Bhagavatam. If you join late, I always say good morning to everybody. Sometimes I miss you. Robin Shaver, good morning. Nessa from Ireland, good morning. And now we just sort of wind down and we lip sync.